Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for your interest in this session today. We're excited to have you all here. So this session is going to be overviewing the IIASA's Young Scientist Summer Program and some of the topics in terms of what to look for when you're applying for the program and some of the things to expect when you're actually in the program. So my name is Brian Fath. I'm a research scholar at IIASA and also have been the scientific director of the YSSP now for over 15 years. Also from the YSSP team, we have Fabian Wagner here, who is the Capacity Development and Academic Training Director, and also Alex Kofala, who is on the YSSP team. We have two former YSSPers who will be speaking to you later about their research and their experience. And we also have Seppo from the South African Science Foundation to also welcome you and give some words. So briefly, the plan for today, we have a lot packed in these 2 hours. So Seppo will begin with some opening remarks and then some overall remarks about IIASA's capacity development academic training. Then we'll get into the YSSP and what that is like. We'll also hear from each of the different programs, which is how the research is structured around the around IIASA, and then moving into the chance to have breakout groups to talk more directly with people from each of the programs to answer questions about the research that's going on there. We'll talk about some of the strategies for completing your application, hear from some of the YSSP alumni, and then some more tips on the application process, and then Q&A. And we're open, so if you have questions throughout the session, please feel free to write them in the chat. If something is really burning, you can even raise your hand, and we'll try to get to it that way as well. So that is the plan. And with that, staying on schedule, Seppo, the floor is yours if you want to say any opening remarks.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to everybody who's been able to join. Quite excited about this conversation, and I just note the many interests that we've had. I think sitting at 80, 90 now almost. So it's quite exciting just to know the excitement of both colleagues within the region and at IIASA and beyond even the region. So as introduced, my name is Seppo Hachigonta. I'm at the National Research Foundation South Africa. Besides that, I'm also the vice chair of the IIASA Council. In addition to that, I've been a YSSPer many years ago, 2007. So I can relate to the many discussions we are having today. But the big question again is why are we doing what we're doing both now as part of this YSSP masterclass, but as part of SSARMO? What does it mean for South Africa? What does it mean for Sub-Saharan Africa? Just a bit of a backdrop. South Africa joined IIASA as a member in 2007 when I was a YSSP then. And since then, there's been a suite of many programs that we've done between IIASA and South Africa. Good example, over the last 10 or so plus years, we've managed to train or provide PhD scholarships for almost 70 students in South Africa. We've managed to train in many forms and shapes, whether YSSP, IIASA, YSSP in the region, more than 200 students on systems thinking approaches and other interventions linked to system support. In addition to that, we've seen a lot of partnerships between IIASA experts and experts in the region. That's the foundation, actually, if you look at the fabric, to building this cohort of students that we're able to train between IIASA and the region. Our approach since we joined, I think it's been very intentional since when the South Africa was a member. Now that the Sub-Saharan Africa is a member with the 18 councils in Sub-Saharan Africa, it's been very intentional, anchored on capacity development. That has been one of the main pillars. Why? It's linked to the need of having these very tailored, intentional programs that train students to be well-rounded, especially if dealing with these complex issues that we have now or in the future. So just that, drive of well-rounded students. You can't do that in isolation. You can't do that as South Africa. You can't do that as Botswana or Namibia or Austria. You can do that if you work within the bigger picture of the global landscape. And that's where IIASA comes in, where we are able to expose students, whether through the YSSP or other mentorship programs that we have between IIASA and South Africa. So that's a very intentional approach. Train as many students as possible on skills on systems, methodologies, approaches, and tools. Build that cohort. And when we do that, then we can think of these leaders that are driving change in the continent as well as within the globe. The other piece that we've done is linked as well, similar to the YSSP. Those who remember in 2013-14, because of the many interests that we've had in the region, example is what we are having now. If you look at YSSP, it's a very niche program where students spend time in Austria. But because of the number and interest that we've had in the region and outside, we had developed the Southern African Summer School Program then in 2014-15, 13-14-15. The intent of that was to look at how do we ensure that we are building as much capacity as possible, training a larger number of students within the region. So I think that model as well is being revived. I think we've done it even in the last 5 years, beginning 2023 backwards. We want to revive that, but at the core of that will be the YSSP program. So we are building on the YSSP that's been driven for 50 years by IIASA and YSSP that we've done as well in the past. Building on those type of interventions, the expertise, the curriculars, the many things that has happened, and building that into where we're going as Sub-Saharan Africa, so that we can have the reach, train as many students as possible, have the impact that we intend to be having as we go forward. And even the PhD students scholarships and students that we are currently supporting, it's not just a PhD. If you look at what we're doing under YSSP and IIASA and other programs, it's not just a PhD where we give you a supervisor and you sit, you do your PhD, you attend a conference. We want to build in a lot of these interventions. And one of them is exposure to YSSP, the international exposure, the academic aspect of it and non-academic aspect of it, and how we are able to deliver the community, the alumni of IIASA as we develop these experts as we go forward. So quite excited about the YSSP masterclass, as well as opportunities at IIASA, but as well looking at the bigger picture in terms of the vision that we have in the region, working with IIASA to develop expand or scale up these programs in the region so that we can have a bigger reach, both on the students that we are training, that we've trained in the past, as well as the future students that are coming. So building on these platforms as we go forward. I think as well, what we want to do from this cohort of the interested people who are participating here, I think we need to get in contact with them. We need them to be part of this community that we are building now. This alumni, whether it's an alumni or you're a part of it, or you want to be a part of this cohort of systems analysis, IIASA, YSSP, we want to build on this community. Please, we will reach out back to you. I think if possible, if they can be where we can get the email contacts here, and then we can share with them the plans that we have, both as part of this masterclass, other things that might not be a part of this masterclass, and entry points as we are designing some other modalities of programs within Sub-Saharan Africa. But quite excited to be a part of this and looking forward to listening in and having the conversation. Thanks a lot, Brian.
Yeah, thank you so much, Seppo. Yeah, an excellent example of somebody who was in YSSP and then stuck with IIASA and contributed so much back to IIASA over the last few decades. So thank you for that. Also, the reminder of the SAYSSP, I had the opportunity to be at University of Free State during each of those iterations. I'm glad to hear that you're thinking of reviving something like that as well, too. So excellent. Okay, so next on the agenda, Fabian, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Thank you for all being here. Welcome to this masterclass. We're thrilled to see so many of you see many of you here in the meeting. close to 100 people in the room now. I just wanted to, adding to what Seppo said, I just wanted to say, for IIASA, it is important to have that interaction and to intensify that interaction with SSARMO. That's part of the reason why we're having this masterclass, to really see how we can increase the number of people coming to IIASA through the YSSP. You're going to hear a lot about the YSSP, what it's like, what kind of topics IIASA is researching, and how you're going to how you can apply to the program. I just wanted to sort of preamble this to give you a general flavor in a couple of sentences about what IIASA is about. Again, Brian will say more about it, but to summarize this in a few sentences, I think we can say that here at IIASA, we really believe in the power of systems thinking and the power of systems analysis to address problems that our societies are facing. Seppo alluded to that. Many of these problems are too big to be addressed by a single country or a single discipline, or maybe it's not even possible to address them within a single generation. So these are really complex problems. And again, for that, systems analysis, we believe, is a useful tool. We also believe in evidence for policymaking. We believe that scientific evidence is a useful guide and a useful ingredient into policymaking. And that's why our research is often tailored towards policymakers. I always speak about the options-oriented approach. So we are not problem-oriented. We are not solution-oriented. We are options-oriented to offer options for decision makers to choose from, to understand the full implications of these options. And then we also believe in international collaboration. That's why you see here also many people from many different countries in the room. At IIASA, I think we are fielding something like 50 or 60 different nationalities. So it's a really interesting collaborative atmosphere where we work not only internationally across boundaries, but of course also across disciplinary boundaries. So again, it's something that is quite unusual and sort of stands out, and it's something that one sometimes needs to adjust a little bit. But then finally, we also believe that all of these skills and all of these workings, these are all acquirable skills, and these can all be learned, and that's why this is not a sort of a closed shop for just a few who will make it, but rather we really believe that we can broaden the participation. We should broaden the participation, and many of the skills that are being practiced here, as I said, can be acquired. The YSSP itself is a relatively small program, 50 participants. That's fewer than there are people in the room, so you can do the maths. Not everybody will be in the program. However, I want to emphasize that IIASA is not just about the YSSP. We're running summer schools, and with Seppo and SSARMO, we're going to expand our options. And so look out for future opportunities to interact with IIASA as well. So this meeting really is about, I think, at least threefold. So first of all, the first lesson is already learned. You learned a little bit more about SSARMO and their operations and their outlook, and IIASA and what IIASA is a little bit about. And then you see the agenda. This is a meeting for helping you to understand what IIASA is about, and eventually to write a competitive application, should you choose to do that. And then finally, it's about managing expectations. I think I've given you a little bit of an insight on sort of what to expect from the broader outlook, and then Brian and everybody else in the room will help you to understand what it's really like to be a YSSPer, to be part of that program. Yes, and with that, I'd like to hand back to Brian. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Fabian. I think the idea that you've all come to this session to learn about the YSSP but that there's many other things going on at IIASA is also a good take home from this. So do continue to track what we're doing, and as Seppo mentioned, that bringing you into the fold of a lot of the systems thinking, systems analysis efforts that are going on. The other thing you mentioned, Fabian, which is interesting, is that I never made the connection that the newsletter at IIASA is called Options. And so maybe that's actually about the option space of that. So I don't know how I missed that, but okay. So let's go a little bit more detail about what the YSSP actually is, and just jump right into that. So, I mean, the main thing is that yes, you would come to IIASA in Austria, right outside of Vienna, for the 3 months, beginning of June to end of August. As was already mentioned, that it's approximately 50 PhD students that are coming or that are selected each year, and very international collection of people. Those 50 usually represent between 20 and 25 different nationalities. A little more background is the Institute is over 50 years old, and YSSP program itself is approaching 50 years. It will have its 50th anniversary in 2027. So we have been doing this for quite a long time. There's over 2,000 alumni of the program now. So you will be working with one or a collection of the different IIASA scientists on a project of mutual interest, with really the goal is to work hard so that by the end of the summer you've completed work that could eventually lead into publishable work, which would most likely be a chapter of your dissertation. We know you won't have a paper ready to submit by the end of the summer, but that you're well on your way to having that completed. Was also mentioned by Seppo was that SSARMO does offer scholarships for selected students. So that's something to also keep in mind and to be looking out for. We'll talk more about the application details in a minute, but just one thing to keep in mind already is that the deadline is January 12th. I think it's midnight Austrian time. But so there's still another month or so to complete your application.
But I hope it's 2026.
Oh, did I have the wrong year on there? Yeah, 2026. Sorry. Of course, 2026. So yeah, a little bit more about IIASA research. So some of the keywords that were already mentioned, it's very international. It was founded as an international institute and remains a strong component. It's very interdisciplinary, cross-cutting kind of research that we do. It's also independent. I think that's important. So even though it's supported by different national governments, that we have a lot of autonomy and agency in the kinds of projects that we choose to do. Some other key words that are often used at IIASA are universal and global. As it was already mentioned by Fabian, is that we're dealing with problems that are universal problems that all societies face: how to feed people, how to provide fresh water, how to deal with good governance. But then there's also global issues like global climate change and the oceans and that affect all nations, right? So both of those aspects that cross-cut, I think, the kind of mission that IIASA has. This figure is becoming a little bit dated, but I think it still more or less works. These are the current program structure at IIASA. I will highlight that, I guess that so the way that it's organized is around these 6 main research programs. Starting up here and going clockwise: the Advancing Systems Analysis Program, or ASA, Biodiversity and Natural Resources, BNR, Energy, Climate and Environment, ECE, Population and Just Societies, PopJust, Economic Frontiers, EF, and then Strategic Initiatives. Within those, you see that there are smaller scale research groups, working groups. I won't read all of those names for you, but the idea is that the way that, we have to have some structure at the Institute, and so people are housed within a particular program, and then within a certain working group, there are people that cross working groups and others that even cross programs. But when you are applying, the thing to keep in mind from your perspective is that you would be applying for a specific working group. So if you're interested in the ASA work, but specifically the systemic risk and resilience, you would list that as your priority position, right? So when the applications are being reviewed, and we'll get into this more later, but that would be the first point of contact that your application would have, would be people in that. If you also at the same time wanted to apply for biodiversity and natural resources, agricultural, forestry, and ecosystem services, you could list that as your second priority. So your application would already start to direct you towards the people that would both be reviewing you, but also working with you if you're selected. we will have some further input from people from those different programs, so I won't say much more about that right now. Yeah, and was also mentioned that we believe in system science. We believe in systems thinking and the idea of supporting policy, supporting the option space, trying to support the transformations to sustainability. We have these big goals in mind. So the YSSP itself is running those 3 months. There's a lot of work expectations. It's a full-time job. You're on a fellowship, most likely to be there. There's many chances to give presentations. We have a series of workshops. It's not a space where you come and take coursework, though. It's not a accredited university course. That's not the intention. It's about mentorship and scholarship. So we complement that with the seminars and games and festivals and all sorts of different activities that are happening throughout the summer. But your main goal, really, and your main time is spent with the research and with your mentors. But of course, we complement that with a lot of social activities, understanding that the networking is an important part of this. The networking within your YSSP cohort, so your 50 other participants will become your lifelong peers that you'll see at conferences and maybe even working in the same places. And then other chances to interact with the IIASA scientists through different events that we have. IIASA is quite a social, interactive place as well, too. So if you like sports, there's many options to get involved with things like that as well, too. So it's a work hard, play hard kind of summer, but seems to work pretty well. Yeah, and just to this is still in the works, so this is not written in stone. But as I mentioned, the program begins on June 1st. That is a Monday of this year, so we expect to kick it off on that Monday. We have weekly meetings within the cohort. We already have an opening social event on the Wednesday of that week. It turns out that Thursday the 4th is an Austrian holiday. Austrians like to have a lot of holidays. It turns out we only have that one, though, this summer, the way that the calendar aligned. But there'll be introductory presentations that you each get a chance to kick off in kind of a elevator style pitch to everyone what you'll be working on. And then many events running throughout the next 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and then final presentations at the end of August. So that's just kind of the broadest level sketch that we have for that. With that and keeping the timing in mind, I think the next thing before we I'll get in later more about the application, but I think we were going to hear from the programs themselves. And Alex, I can't see who all is here from the programs, but I see Michael is here. Should I turn it over to EF then, since I see Michael?
We have everybody here.
You have everyone here.
Everybody is here, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you want I can stop sharing then. If you want to call, oh, there now I see everybody, it all popped up. Michael, go ahead. I saw you first, so.
Yes, so I'm Michael Freiberger. I'm representing the Economic Frontiers program. And don't have too much to say in this round, but more than in the breakout sessions. But if you want to get, or if you're interested in the Economic Frontiers program, have a look at our website. If you scroll down a little bit, you have a big red banner with YSSP 2026. And if you click on that link and follow it, you get a lot of information about the opportunities in our program.
Excellent, thank you. Elliot, you are next on my panels.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So I'm Elliot. I actually work for the Equity and Justice program, which is part of the PopJust group. I've got that the wrong way around. I'm in the Equity and Justice group in the PopJust program. And PopJust really covers questions of demography, of migration, and increasingly things like health and equity and justice, but still taking this kind of systems analytic way of thinking and interpreting the world. So I can talk about more of this in the breakout sessions as well and get into what these groups are about. But you can, again, find this information on the website. And we'd encourage you to reach out to us.
Okay, thank you. Somebody just wrote in the chat they were having trouble hearing. Michael, you were a little quiet, but I did hear you. But but it was welcome from the Economic Frontiers group, and also we can reiterate that most of the information for the specific programs is online. But there'll be a chance in the breakout, and hopefully any mic issues are settled. Now people just jumped around on my screen. Piotr, you would be next, though.
Hello, my name is Piotr Żebrowski, and I work in Advanced Systems Analysis program. So I would be also your main contact point in case you'll be considering applying to ASA. So a couple of words about our program. It is more methodology-oriented program. It used to be quite mathematical, but these days is also a lot of social scientists participating in this project, this program. So yeah, so we're focused on developing new methodologies, also on testing existing methodologies in new contexts. So, for instance, we try to transfer methodologies from one context to another, see how they work, showcase them with some small scale case studies, this type of thing. We also develop like embryos of new models. So a lot of, or maybe not a lot of, but a couple of existing IIASA models started as like very small test models in programs which then evolved into Advancing Systems Analysis program. What else? We're also focusing on methodology of actually using systems analysis and how to communicate results which were obtained using systems analysis methods to decision makers and people who are a little bit of laymen in this regard. So so how to present results in palatable way. ASA consists of 4 groups, which is cooperative and transformative governance, which focus on aspects of governance, either theoretical or more practical, like case studies analysis. Another group is systemic risk and resilience. It's kind of self-explanatory. We also have a group focused on modeling, which is called exploratory modeling and human natural systems. And finally, we have novel data and ecosystem for sustainability group. And this group is mostly doing remote sensing and analysis of other sources of data like citizen science collected through, for instance, mobile devices and applications of machine learning to these big rows of data they're collecting. Yeah, I'll be happy to talk more about ASA in breakout sessions. So yeah, please join.
Great, thanks, Piotr. Thanks. Sylvia, you are next.
Thank you all. Happy to be here. I am representing the Biodiversity and Natural Resources program of IIASA. In a nutshell, I would say we deal with the human-natural intersections. So humans is the socioeconomics. It's about economics. It's about the social groups and how humans behave. And natural is the biophysical environment. So we try to connect those 2 elements to achieve, in a very wide sense, sustainable development, to achieve the sustainable development goals, which is, of course, of particular importance for the African continent. We have 4 groups, which I will mention maybe a bit more in this subgroup. But it's about biodiversity, land use, agriculture, forestry. We have a strong modeling component, so a quantitative component also of water models, of water economic models, etc. But please check the website. That's probably the quickest way to get into. And thank you, Brian.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Sylvia. All right. And then June.
Hi, everyone. I'm June Shepard. I also did the YSSP in 2019, so happy to be back at IIASA. I'm representing the Energy, Climate, and Environment Program, ECE. As Brian mentioned, we have 5 groups within ECE. We have pollution management. I need to get the list up. We have sustainable service systems. We have integrated assessment and climate change. That's the group I'm in. We have transformative, institutional, and social solutions, and we have integrated climate impacts. And essentially what ECE research does is uses systems analysis, including modeling. We have the message energy system model and the GAINS pollution model within the ECE program that we use heavily. We use systems analysis to tackle policy relevant questions, including those related to the energy transition, pollution, of course, and more recently, we've been bringing in a lot more social science research to look at transformational social transitions. So looking forward to talking a bit more during the breakout group. You can also reach me. It's just my last name at iasa.ac.at. And like the others, we also have a website where you can find a lot of information. If you just Google YSSP opportunities in ECE, it should come up. So thanks, Brian.
Yes, excellent. Thanks, June. Yes, another successful YSSP alum. So the plan now is to have you select one of those programs, and the people you just heard from will be kind of chairing the session in the different breakouts, and therefore you can ask some specific questions. I'm going to make one small adjustment to the schedule, is that when we come back from the breakouts, I think it would be best to hear from Gemma and Protus next after that, before we get more details of the application. So just to put Protus and Gemma, our alumni, on notice that will be coming next. I think we'll be okay if we take just 23 minutes for the breakouts to keep on schedule, but we can be a little bit flexible and see how that goes. But Alex may need to help here on how this is going to work, but I think that it will pop up that you have a choice to select which breakout, and it will have the program name next to that. So please do select one of those for the next session in this. Is that correct, Alex?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you also should be able to hop around in between the rooms if you would like to switch between groups.
I think next maybe it'd be helpful to hear from some of the alumni, and they can share their experience, a little bit about their research, to also give you a flavor of the, not the specific projects necessarily, but kind of the scope of the projects that can be done during the 3 months. And then they will also give you just kind of their impression of the program and maybe some advice. So with that, I see Gemma there and ready to go. So Gemma, another success story. She was in the ASA program in YSSP in 2022, coming from South Africa, from Durban, and is now employed in the BNR program. So, yes. So the floor is yours, Gemma. Thank you.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm just going to try hide the. Okay, great. So thank you for having me today. I'm going to share a little bit about my experience in YSSP in 2022. So not so long ago. So YSSP for me was really quite life-changing, not to be dramatic, but it was very eye-opening and broadened my mind and took me from being stuck in my little research bubble to, wow, this is possible. What is possible with systems analysis? What kind of impact can we have at like a policy level? How do we communicate? How do we work internationally? So I'm just going to give you a quick overview about how I got to YSSP, a little bit about what to keep in mind for the application process, a little bit about my project and my mentors, some other experiences I had in YSSP that had nothing to do with the work, and then just to touch on the financial realities and what support might be available for you to attend this program. So I come from South Africa. I did my undergraduate environmental sciences. I did a lot on microplastic pollution, but then moved into my PhD doing something completely different, looking at estuarine ecosystems and food web analysis. And during my PhD, my supervisor said to me at the time, there is this program and you should apply to it. And while you're in the trenches of the PhD, at least for me, the last thing I wanted to do was write another proposal, right? Extra stress, extra effort. But I'm glad I did. And that's how I ended up in the ASA program during YSSP. And this is my cohort here and the pictures. And I loved it so much that as soon as I finished my PhD, I applied for a job and got one within the biodiversity and natural resources program in the research group BEC specifically, which is the biodiversity, ecology and conservation group. And I'm still here, still very happy. So before I sent in my application, there were some things I needed to keep in mind. And I think it's quite important for me to just share this knowledge. So before you apply, you have to develop a research project proposal based on some aspect of your PhD, but that it aligns, like with what everyone is saying. Does it align with something that IIASA is currently doing with their research themes? Is there capacity? So are there mentors available that can help you? Another thing really important is to reach out to mentors to help you shape your proposal before you submit it. So this will be contacting individuals or contacting the YSSP representatives of the different groups. There's a link here for all the different programs, groups, and staff, and you can click through. You can either contact the YSSP individual contact points of each group, or if there is someone in particular, like if you go to my staff research page and see the work I'm working on and think it really aligns with you, you can contact all the staff, have a contact button on the website, and they will get your message like that. Other important points before you send in your application, before you write your proposal, is to keep in mind that the YSSP schedule, it's 3 months, which sounds long. It's not. It's completely jam-packed. You will be working on your own research. You will be attending seminars. You will be attending networking events. There is really no time for extra data collection. There's really no time for, running too many new models. So I recommend, and this is what I did, is I built all my models. If you're modeling, I built all of them before and I ran them so that I arrived at YSSP with my raw results and spent those 3 months really getting into the nitty-gritty of the analysis of those results with my mentors. And this helps you because you come prepared. This helps your mentors because instead of spending time trying to do new things, you are now really just focused on your analysis and how we can make a great report from that. As an example, I'm just going to show you what I did for my YSSP work. So my PhD was all about ecosystem indicator assessment. So how do we incorporate field measurement uncertainty into estuarine ecosystem models? So an estuary is a place where the river meets the sea, and we can sample all of that and get different values and different biodiversity survey results of who lives in there, who eats who, and by how much. And my PhD was really split up into 3 main parts. So method development, actually looking at the ecosystem function, and then another core component was the uncertainty analysis. So for YSSP, I picked one aspect of this whole thesis, which was the uncertainty analysis. And what that means is if we are building a food web model and we're putting numbers to everything, we normally have a range of values from field measurements about what a particular flow or consumption value could be for something. We can solve this sort of network with one solution, or we can do multiple and get like a probability distribution of potential values. And my report was really about this, is if we can solve one model, or if we solve 10,000, do we need all that extra uncertainty? And if we do need it, what is it telling us? And how do we communicate this to policymakers? And this is what I spent 3 months on. I had 3 mentors, including Brian. And this report actually formed a chapter of my PhD thesis. So it was really just 3 months of intense work, and I ended up with an addition to my thesis. And this kind of network analysis is not just limited to food webs and ecological networks, but also things like economic networks or social networks. And that was just a bit about the work itself. But YSSP is not only about work, and I put the work hard, play hard here, quote by Brian, because I've heard this since the beginning, and it is absolutely true. So there are 2 additional parts of YSSP that I found really important. The first one being the cultural experience. So for me, I'd never been to Europe. I had no idea about anything, but within the YSSP program, time and effort is spent on encouraging all the YSSP participants to take part in cultural expansion activities. So something really nice is we had a big hike in the mountains. You can see some pictures of us there. We had a lot of different food and cultural experiences. So we also had a trip to a wine tavern. We also had a tour of Vienna, which is a beautiful city. It is full of incredible architecture. And these are all just very enriching activities on top of your work. And then the second additional part of YSSP for me was the social experiences in 2 ways. The first one is within your cohort. Brian has said that these people will become your lifelong colleagues, and that's absolutely true. I see that even now. I bump into my old YSSP colleagues at different conferences and different webinars. But it's also a lot about networking within the broader IIASA family. So you will get to meet people who work at IIASA from all over the world. You will form these new connections, and it really takes your career to the next level. And then lastly, I just want to touch on the financial realities and the supports. So YSSP itself is free to attend, but there are living costs, which are solely your responsibility. That is everything from your rent to your food. And for me, this would be impossible to support by myself. And I was lucky enough to have the support of the National Research Foundation, who covered all of the travel. They covered a monthly living allowance as well. And the action point here is to check for available funding specifically for YSSP, because it will really help, and also put that in your application so IIASA knows that you have support. And just a little note here, something that I found really interesting when I applied for my visa. The visa is quite expensive. If you tell them that it's for research, they'll usually just waive the fee as well. So that's just an extra little expense that you can save. And that is it from me. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time. And next we will move on to Protus. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Gemma. Excellent. Nice overview. Yeah, so Protus, very recent YSSPer, just 6 months ago. And so thank you for taking the time also to share your experience. Gemma, you're still sharing, I believe.
Yes, I am. I have lost the controls. There we go.
Their Protus is sharing now.
Okay. Not yet.
I see Protus's slides. Yeah, not full screen, but I do see it. Yeah, there we go.
Right. This is welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. It depends with the time zone. And thank you for joining this YSSP masterclass. My name is Protus Kyalo, 2025 YSSP alumnus. I am from Kenya, in particular Lukenya University. I'm a PhD candidate in statistics. And in this particular 3 months, I worked under Advancing Systems Analysis program, and I was mentored by Dr. Stefan Pietich and Dr. Zebrowski Piotir. So I'll take another sort of path. Gemma has mentioned quite a lot, but I'll briefly walk you through my research project and then share what my YSSP summer experience was like, both academically and socially. So we'll start with what I worked on in those 3 months. My research focused on modeling semi-arid ecosystem processes in Kenya, and in particular in Baringo County. Baringo is this specific county characterized by bushland and picket and grassland. And this region faces rapid forest decline and severe degradation driven by human pressures. And the core goal in this particular project was simple. Can we predict ecosystem changes early enough to guide effective restoration? And that formed the whole YSSP project. So the context, the why. My research focused on semi-arid processes, and in this case, these semi-arid areas usually face ecological crisis, and these crises are not just environmental issues, but they are usually caused by humans. And a little bit of literature review. Between 2022 and 2024, over 300 people lost their lives due to resource-based conflict alone. And in 2017 alone, 10,000 people were displaced because of pasture, food, and water shortages. And we can see that nationally, Kenya loses or spends, in this case, 1.3 billion annually, which is roughly approximately 5% of the GDP to land degradation. And now these numbers show you just how closely ecosystems and livelihoods are intertwined. So in this case, what were the responses in this case? There have been several efforts to support the affected communities. And you can see in cash transfers, Chakula kwa Jamii, which is Swahili for food for the people, reaching over 240,000 families, distribution of drought-resistant goods, clean cook stove programs, which not only reduce carbon emissions, but also reduce firewood dependence. Now, this is where modeling comes in. Despite these interventions, degradation continues, largely because the underlying ecological processes are not fully understood, right? And hence, the BGC-MAN model comes in. And in this particular slide, you can see different pictures. You can see a picture of a good ecosystem, which is thriving, which has trees. And on the other hand, on my right, you can see trees that are cut and the soil is not well, it's degraded. And this is because of human pressures. So the question is, how can we manage these rapid ecosystem changes? So I use the BGC-MAN model, which is an IIASA model. And it's a process-based biogeochemical model that simulates carbon, nitrogen, and water fluxes in ecosystems. And it has a management function which can incorporate management components that are in that particular ecosystem. And for this particular study, I used 43 representative sites across Baringo County, multi-source data sets, MODIS. I know most of you are familiar with this: vegetation cover, different soil profiles, long-term climate records. And now this field data was collected in 2024. Remember that Gemma said that you should come with most of the data, and so that you just focus on the advice part and the mentoring part of your project. I also incorporated extraction pressures, and this is now what we refer to as the management components, and things like firewood use. And in this case, I used from the literature 15.5 kilograms per household per week. The model helped reconstruct ecosystem trajectories from 1960 to 2005. Now, in this case, let's look at what I got. And these are some of the results that I had. And you can see a graph here. So one of the major inputs that I got, major insights, was that the model actually reproduced biomass drops with that were during the major drought years. And the drought years are shown by the red lines in 1975, 1984, 1991, and 2004. And you can see major biomass drops. This is leaf area index. And it also captured how different areas recover at different speeds, depending on the specific characteristics in those respective ecosystems and management practices. So this is one, and this is two as well, that actually articulates with the other graph, and this is on year against the standing tree carbon, and you can see that it still talks of the same story. Now, away from that, I like to talk about my YSSP experience, and I earlier said that my supervisors were Dr. Stefan Pietich and Piotr. And you can see on this photo, right in front of the IIASA building. It was quite a sunny day. It's a summer experience anyway. But beyond the research, the YSSP is an incredibly rich academic and personal experience. I work daily with researchers from different fields. And basically, this particular environment actually changes how you think and how you approach problems, because you actually participate in different discourses over lunch, over any activity, socially or whichever, but discourses which are actually enjoyable. And these conversations were not about just models. I know we are scientists, but they were not just about models, but about how science informs society and policy. And I will also like to talk about the workshops and trainings that I attended as well as part of my YSSP experience. And YSSP actually offers quite a number of training seminars, and these are just quite a few. As Gemma said, the 3 months may look long, but they are actually very short. And you can see these particular topics are quite interesting to learn about. And these workshops significantly strengthened my academic and professional skills. And in terms of my personal highlights, we know that basically the soul of the YSSP experience is the people. And I made strong friendships that I know will last a lifetime. And we collaborated on group activities, explored Austria together, shared our cultures. We supported each other through research challenges, and we also celebrated together. And the growth in systems thinking, scientific writing, and communication is important and invaluable. But I must say that the human experience is truly unforgettable. And at the moment, I can actually see and remember the experiences when I see Brian, I see Alex, while you are looking for a cab. There are a lot of experiences that you actually have. And I've actually had but quite a few of the experiences that I had while I was in IIASA. And these experiences actually shaped me a lot and changed the way I think and the way I approach different problems. We went on hikes. We participated in different outdoor activities. This one was a hike in Schneeberg Mountain, which was quite very, very fun. Yeah, and you can see all of us is just smiles and eating cake, doing all those good activities. I was also part of the football team, as you can see. And based on that, thank you so much for your time. And if you're thinking about applying to the YSSP, I strongly encourage you to do so. One thing is that it's a life-changing experience, academically, professionally, and personally. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on how to apply and the experience there. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Protus. Thanks for the great memories also and endorsement. I recognize the one photo was taken on top of the temple near Merdling, that you made it all the way up to the temple. Very good. Yeah, so you've seen a lot of the pictures and you see in the backgrounds of many of our, not mine, but Alex and Gemma both have it. So the Institute is housed in a former Habsburg palace. It is about a 30-minute bus ride outside of Vienna. Most of the participants or most people from IIASA actually will work at IIASA live in or near Vienna. And so there is a little bit of a commute, which maybe you would have to get used to, but there's great public transportation in Vienna. Some people do decide to live closer, there's a few villages. There's not much in Luxembourg. Most people don't want to actually live in Luxembourg other than for the castle. But yeah, so I know there are a lot of questions about the application. So let me go ahead and share the slides again. We can get back into the, where is it? Why don't I see? There we go. This should be the right thing. Having heard now from the programs and also having heard from the alumni, hide some of my floating panels. Okay. So yeah, so it was several of the questions that had come up, and let's just talk about the application a little bit more. And so this is designed for PhD students. It's one of the first filters. If you're not in a PhD program, I heard somebody was in a master's program, consider applying to our other summer school or some of the other IIASA opportunities. Come back to us when you're in a PhD program. If you've already finished your PhD, we have postdoc opportunities, but also that would not be, YSSP is for people in their PhD, and particularly advanced PhD. We know that different countries have different PhD time frames, and so we don't put a particular year on it, but ideally you're done with all your coursework, that you are closer to the end than you are to the beginning. We find the students are just much better prepared to make the most of the summer if they have some of that behind their belt already and are not just really still exploring what their research is. So yeah, ideally you have some experience already with publishing and have the practice of doing that as well too. The keys to a good application, all right? So as was mentioned several times, the real heart of the program is the mentorship that you have with the particular IIASA scientist. And so the work that you propose to do really has to align with the capacities and the competencies that we have within that mentorship pool of IIASA scientists. So do explore the IIASA research groups. There's a lot of information on the website. There are particular persons within each research groups that are expecting your emails to help align you to the different researchers. You could also write to anybody on the YSSP team. As Gemma mentioned, if there's somebody whose work you're following already, you can write directly to them. No guarantee on responses. People are busy and holidays are coming up, but we do our best. I meant for the individual ones. Of course, if you email to somebody in the YSSP team or the reps, we will get back to you. Another really good thing to look at is that we publish the people that have participated in the past. And so you can look at these, what we call the YSSP booklets. It has the list of all of the projects as they were written and accepted. Sometimes the titles will change as you go throughout the summer, but that gives you a good idea of the kinds of projects that were accepted and where people are coming from. And so that is also available online. And then, start writing if you haven't, to draft some of the key ideas and try to get some feedback as you're going along in that process. I'll reiterate yet again is that it's really based on the best fit with IIASA's research agenda and scientific mission. We receive anywhere between 300 and 500 applications a year. And taking 50. So you can do the math in terms of, that's quite highly selective program. So I'll go through this also on the website, show you we have a guidance document, but it's important to be clear in your own mind and in your writing what you want to get done, have expressed your competency as well with the literature that we get the sense that you know what you want to do and you're familiar with how it fits into the larger body of research, well-defined research and hypotheses, methodologies that are feasible and appropriate and also doable within the time frame that we were given. It is really important also, as Gemma mentioned, that the 3 months will go by very quickly, that you really need to arrive with the data, that if you show up and are planning to spend the first 3 or 4 or 5 weeks collecting data, then the summer will be over before you actually have time to do anything really meaningful with it. And we know that you want to be ambitious with your proposal because that gets attention and it shows that you are an ambitious student. But we also know that it's 3 months, and if you promise to do what would take 2 years to do, we would assess that as being not very realistic as well too. So so you have to balance the goals within the time frame that and the scope that you have. So the application itself, which you can download the sample of it online. I believe Alex is going to talk about this more. We've just switched to a new system, which unfortunately does not allow you to save your results along the way. So we're recommending that you download the entire form and work on it offline, and then later you can come back and upload all your information in one setting. This is just the application itself. Of course, there's some front material in terms of demographics and who you are and where you're from and all that. But each of these sections within the application has a 2,500 character count limit. So we don't want you to write a 10-page application. That's not the point. But these are the main questions. So these are the 6 main boxes that are on the application. Abstract is, I guess, self-evident, but then main research questions and objectives, methods, data, innovative aspects, and then something about your expected results. And I will go through that also in a little bit more detail in just a minute, but just to let you know then what happens, that it's the June 12th, 2026 deadline that is coming. Those will be then received by the YSSP team. All the applications are checked for eligibility. Are you in a YSSP are you in a PhD program, and so forth. And then the first thing is the sorting by the research group. So as was mentioned, you will select that you want to work in ASA SEER group or you want to work in BNR AFE group. And then those scientists would have access to review those proposals. So then the second step is that scientific review and then endorsement. The mentors who find projects that they are interested in mentoring will recommend those within their programs. And so, of course, each program could have a long list. So there has to be some program ranking that is done based on the distribution within the different work groups and need and quality of those programs. Those rankings then are sent to the next round, which is the institute level selection committee. That usually happens around mid-February. So we do try to work fairly quickly with all of this. And then at that stage, we will consider, again, quality, but also nationality, gender, distribution within the programs, the IIASA priorities and funding. Some people have asked about funding. So the NMO countries will have funding slots available. If you're not coming from one of the NMO countries, I think everybody on this call, well, I know it was advertised by SSARMO, maybe not everybody is actually in SSARMO, that we do have a box that you can check on the application that if you have your own project funding, maybe from your PhD has mobility options, or maybe you are supported on another research grant or have your own research grant, then you could use that money to come also to IIASA. It was also mentioned that even though there is no registration fee to do the YSSP, it is recommended that each person would have about 1,700 euros per month for living expenses, and then plus travel to get you there. So somewhere between probably 5,000 and 6,000 euros would cover the summer that you have expenses. Okay, so once the selection committee comes up with their short list, there's another round of iterations to make sure that everybody's actually funded properly, and then it goes to the IIASA directorate for approval. And it is around 50 candidates each cycle that are selected. And then we try to get the results announced by mid-March, because there's next steps in terms of your visa applications and everything that are necessary to get you to the institute by June 1st. So let me stop sharing that. Actually, I see a lot in the chat right now, don't I? Oops. Let's see. Stop sharing. Well, did it stop? I have a feeling. Yes, it did. Okay. What I was going, let me just check. Is there anything in the chat? Is somebody Managing it. Okay, so that was something
I think
about
the chat
finance.
questions are being answered.
Okay. So let me just share real quick the website, and then I'll pass it over to Alex, who will go through this in some more detail. So if you are online on our website at this application information, so this gives you the general overview. What I want to draw your attention to is just the one thing, which is this, which is the guidance document, right? This one, how to write a successful YSSP application. I have to verify that I'm human. I actually had it opened already, but it's working here. So this just gives you some further ideas on how to address each of those different sections that are in the application. And some of this I've already had on the other slides. So that is all repeat. There are examples of successful, just thinking about even the titles, the type of work that we're doing here, as well as unsuccessful titles. Guidance for each one of those sections. And just to jump down to the end, that there is a checklist. Sorry for scrolling through this quickly, but I think this is largely self-explanatory. So you can go through this on your own time, but then at the end is this checklist. And so for each of the sections are just some reminders as you're doing your final check before you submit it. Have I done these things, right? So this would really help strengthen the overall final product that you will be submitting. So just pay attention to that as you're going through everything. So, are there any questions about that we have at the moment? Somebody else just started sharing screen. I don't think that was intentional. It's not my screen. There we go. Any questions that somebody wants to ask before we get into a little bit more of the technical side of the application? Or maybe it's all being handled in the chat, which is excellent as well, too. The word limit. Yeah, so each of those 6 main categories have the 2,500 character count limit. So that includes the abstract section as well. Anything else? Age limit to the program. That's a great question. So young is in terms of your academic career. We have had people close to 50 successfully be selected for the program. So if you are in a PhD program, you're in that stage of your career, whether you had an earlier career before doing something else. So there's no age limit in that sense. Are there specific journals? Interesting. No, really, we do such a broad range of research that there's no preferred journal. It's just whatever fits best your project and your topic. We may make some recommendations, but I think it really is going to depend on the specific project that you have. Okay, well, while those are coming in, maybe go ahead, Alex, if you wanted to walk through a little bit more about the application itself.
So perhaps just very quickly where to find our website. I assume most of you have seen it already, but if you join the IIASA website, and you'll find us here under capacity building and then the Young Scientist Summer Program. And then go to the application information. This is where you'll find the actual application link. This is the document that Brian just mentioned, the guide about how to write a successful YSSP application. Treat it as your go-to reading material before going to bed. Read it every night for the next couple of weeks. So it's in your brain. The other important document is the application guide. My colleague Kirsten, she's done a great job of walking you step by step through all of the necessary steps and information that you all need to put into the online application form. So I think this is very well explained, because as Brian already mentioned, one of the most important things for you to notice is that you will not be able to save information. So you have to put it all in one go. Brian also mentioned that you might want, before applying or before writing a proposal, you might want to look at past proposals and past research. So this is where you would find this. So you would find the list of previous participants, and we have compiled for each of the years, we have compiled individual booklets that contain abstracts and biosketches of past participants. So have a look at that. This is ultimately how the first page of the online application looks like. You have to create a profile here. And I believe that most of it is pretty much self-explanatory. As mentioned before, there is a character limit. And that's it.
Let me say something that you just reminded me. Sorry, Alex, but you just scrolled down. We didn't say anything about the reference letters, and that was the last thing there. So we're asking you to supply the names of 2 potential references for you, and we're not asking you to supply, or for them to even supply, the letters in advance. There's technical and good reasons for that. But when you ask a person to be a referee for you, a reference, alert them to the fact that they should be ready, though, fairly quickly if you are called on. So if during that review process, what would happen is that if we like the application but still need more information, we might then reach out to that referee in kind of end of January, early February, but with the expectation that we would hear back, definitely within a week with that information. So they don't have to submit the letter, but they should have something in mind prepared. During that review period, that kind of mid-January to mid-February, it's also quite likely that if you're being strongly considered, that you would be interviewed. So the mentor that wants to learn more about your project might reach out to set up a time to have a short Zoom interview. It's oftentimes informal, to just talk with you about your project. It's not that you have to prepare a presentation, but just to get a chance to hear from you, meet you about that. It's not a requirement. So if you don't have the interview, it doesn't mean that you absolutely won't be selected, but more and more it's becoming part of the application selection process. Yeah, otherwise excellent, Alex. And also somebody had just asked for the website. That on that website is also the contact information for each of those different program reps, either the people that were here speaking with you already today or other people within those programs. So it really helps you drill down into the programs, and in some cases even research groups that will explain what work some of the recent past YSS peers has done, or the kind of research they're looking for, and the people to contact going forward. So really do spend some time at the website and becoming familiar with it. And also, if there's a question that really can be answered on the website, take the time. If we get questions, we'll do our best to answer them. But if it's a question that we know is very easily answered on the website, then we'll say, hey, check out our website. It's right there. So, yes, there's a question, Congo Basin. What did that have to do? I don't understand the reference there, but maybe I missed the thread. Are there any other questions? We reserve these last 10 or 15 minutes for you to have a chance to ask things. So it's now open. I know the chat has been active though, so maybe that's where most of this is going on. And thank you for everyone that is responding. I think some of the thread I see is about just kind of the regions that are eligible, but the world is eligible, right? I mean, we are a global institute, and so people are doing case study work all over the planet. There's not a preferred location, but we do look for that universal aspect. If your case study is really only applying to that particular region, without the broad perspective, then we would look for, well, what is the implication for other places? Like what can we learn from this case study? And I think that's a general advice for your papers in your discussion anyways, is to try to expand the relevancy of the work that you're doing in a particular place. But no place is off limits. I see the last question in the chat is that program fully sponsored? I'm not sure which program. You mean the YSSP program? So as was mentioned, there is no registration fee, and we try to get scholarships for the majority of the applicants coming from SSARMO, for example, but from other international member organizations. That doesn't always work out. That there are times when the YSSP is bringing their own funding support from their home universities as well too. But nobody is paying out of pocket. We don't like the expectation that you're going to be somehow using personal funds. That's not the spirit of this project or of this program. Right. So the last one about Nepal. So it is an open solicitation. There are no national boundaries in terms of the applications. There may be the funding question at the end, in terms of if you're coming from a country that doesn't offer scholarships. We would do our best to try to align funding, but in some cases that is a reason why it doesn't work out, is if there's just no way to get money to get you there. So active social media. There's a lot of active social media. Alex, can you maybe advise on that piece?
Yes, if you actually scroll down on the bottom of our webpage, you have the link to all of our social media accounts. I can quickly show you. So this is where you can find the latest information. Yeah.
Excellent. Somebody's asking about the data collection. Can I make a commitment in my application that will collect data before resuming in June? Yeah. So you don't have to have collected all the data by January 12th, right? That we understand is not possible. But if you say my field data collection period is March and April, we will believe you, right? I mean, that you may be asked that in an interview, but yeah, as long as you would have it by June and good evidence that you'd have it by June, that would be considered fine. It might be that some of you here too are learning about this program for the first time, and it's best for you to apply for 2027, right? I mean, so there's, think about your own timeline, your own, kind of preparedness that it would take to put together a strong application. You can always apply in 2026, and if you're not selected, you can apply again in 2027. We've had many instances of people that take a few iterations before they are actually accepted into the program. Yeah, somebody's asking about which program to fit into. Applicants required to have publications. You would not be immediately rejected because you don't have a publication, right? So that it's not a hard filter, but in the end, if we are comparing multiple applications for quality and experience and so on, and somebody has 3 publications and somebody else doesn't have others, then that clearly would weigh more in the favor of the person that has that evidence of publishing, right? So it goes to the overall strength of the application, but it's not a disqualifying factor that you haven't published. Yes, the calendar, January 12th, 2026.
Midnight Central European Time.
Computer science-based projects. There would have to be a research question there, right? So are you talking about a method or just software development? But try to think of it in terms of the research questions. That would help us to identify where it might fit better. I think it was well, we maybe didn't mention it in this session today, but IIASA does not have wet lab research laboratories. It does not have kind of like, it's not a full university. Clearly, it's a research institute, more of a think tank. A lot of modeling work, systems analysis work goes on, but there's some work that just we can't support. We don't have the expertise or the facilities to do that. So please do align your research with the capabilities that we have. So. More questions coming on. You're welcome to raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. The chat is, but I do see Fabian and others keeping up with the chat, so thanks for that. Okay. So this session has been recorded. I believe the recording will also be online later. There's also a recording from a previous session we held a few weeks ago. So if you would like to revisit some of that material, of course, that's available. But going to the website and scrolling through all of the information there is really the next step. If you haven't done that already, if you've done that, to start thinking about your actual project and drafting ideas, reaching out to somebody in one of the programs and getting a sense for where it might fit would be the guidance. Do keep in mind that IIASA is going to be closed from about December 23rd, I believe, until January 6th. So if you're trying to reach out to somebody during that time period, you will most likely not get any response. And so, and also if you write to somebody on January 10th or January 11th, there's a good chance that you won't get a response because it's, the last minutes. But there's still more than a month now. So be timely and try to reach out. Any other questions? The chat is slowing down. You still have 86 people. Yeah, well, thank you everybody for coming out to this session. Thank you to Protus and Gemma for giving their experience and vision. Thanks to Seppo and Puleng for helping initiate this and kicking this off as well too. SSARMO is quite active, so if it's not just the YSSP, I know that SSARMO will be that Seppo will be in touch with you on other SSARMO activities as well. So thanks to Fabian and Alex also for their contributions to the YSSP team in this session. And I see the chat is slowing down. So yeah, I think we can close. So have a great day. For me, it's just not yet 9 a.m., so I still get to go to the office and teach my classes today. But for some of you, it's nearing the end of the day. So enjoy wherever and however you will spend it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care and hope to see you at IIASA this summer.